Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into a really fascinating question. How do we actually, understand reality?
Yeah, what tools are we using?
Exactly. We've got some interesting source material here that talks about these things called ontology tools.
Okay.
Think of them as like the lenses or maybe frameworks we use to make sense of the constant flow of moments, the event stream, they call it.
Right, the stream of events, and maybe even get a sense of something bigger, like the eternal now.
Precisely. And right now, it seems the main ontology tool we all have. Well, it's our own minds, isn't it?
It is, though it's interesting, the material hints that maybe we aren't the only ones. Thinking about whales, their complex songs.
Or, yeah, even hypothetical aliens. Could they have ways of seeing reality that we can't even imagine?
Could be. Obviously, we're kind of stuck looking through our own human lens, so it's hard to say for sure.
That makes sense. And this human lens, or ontological sensitivity, is tied up with qualia, right? Those subjective feelings.
Like the taste of coffee or, yeah, feeling warmth, that raw experience.
And it's this ability to feel, to experience, that maybe draws us towards things like astrology or tarot. It feels like we're trying to tap into something.
I think so.
I mean, I can relate. I've dabbled with astrology, tarot, but
Yeah.
honestly, never found they worked great when I tried to read for myself.
Ah, okay, and that lines up perfectly with the big point here. It's really hard to use these tools on yourself.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, the discussion brings up the speaker's girlfriend, Heidi. Apparently, she's a really skilled astrologer, good tarot reader,
Okay.
but finds it super difficult to get clearer readings for herself.
Huh.
The idea is our conscious mind just jumps in. We sort of nudge the interpretation towards what we want to see or maybe what we're worried about right now.
Right, right. So our awareness, the very thing letting us experience reality, kind of messes with the signal when we look at ourselves.
Exactly. It becomes a filter, a distorting one.
It's that built-in bias. I mean, even in data analysis, my field, you have to constantly fight your own assumptions, coloring the results.
Sure, you need processes to counteract that.
Which is why, yeah, my own analysis methods are set up to try and strip out that personal bias as much as possible. But what really caught my eye here is this hint about a potential revolution in these tools.
Yes, absolutely. The talk is about entangled qubit chips, or quit chips.
Quit chips. Okay, quantum stuff.
Basically, yeah, qubits are the quantum version of computer bits.
Yeah.
But instead of just 0 or 1, they can be like both at once. Superposition.
Okay, still with you.
And then entanglement. That's even weirder. Qubits get linked, sharing a fate no matter how far apart. It's this deep connection.
Right.
And that connection, that ability to be in multiple states, might make them incredibly powerful for new kinds of analysis. Suggestion is as this tech grows, we might get totally new ontology tools.
Tools that maybe bypass our mental limitations.
Potentially. Maybe finding patterns in that event stream that are just invisible to us right now, moving beyond simple correlations to something deeper.
Okay, so let's dig into that self-reading problem more. Why is it so tough with tarot or astrology for yourself? It's not just wishful thinking, is it?
It's more than that, yeah. Your immediate conscious thoughts, your feelings, they act like a strong magnet pulling the interpretation.
So you see a card or a planetary alignment and you instantly link it to your biggest worry or your greatest hope right now.
Pretty much. You subconsciously shape the narrative to fit your current mental state. It's almost unavoidable.
Which highlights why you need that ontology interpreter, like Heidi reading for someone else. She's detached.
Exactly. She's the bridge.
Yeah.
She can look at the tool's output more objectively because her own hopes and fears aren't directly tangled up in that specific reading.
So she gives an interpretation.
Right, based on the system, the symbols, the patterns. But then the person getting the reading still has to take that and see how it fits their life, their context.
It's a two-step thing. Her interpretation, then my application.
You got it.
You know, it's interesting how the source material frames the boom in things like astrology and tarot lately. Not as people being silly, but maybe.
Maybe as a sign of growing awareness. That reality is maybe not just purely mechanical clockwork.
Yeah, like an intuition that there are deeper layers, connections we don't fully get yet through just standard science.
I think that's a really sharp point. It could be this collective reaching for understanding those underlying currents, sensing patterns beyond the obvious cause and effect, and exploration.
So back to the tech, these entangled qubit AI things. What could new ontology tools made with them actually do? Software, hardware. Oh, what are we talking about?
Well, it's speculative, obviously. But the way entangled qubits can handle interconnected information, it's vast. They might detect incredibly faint correlations, subtle patterns in the event stream.
Things our biased, sort of limited human brains just miss.
Precisely. Like a super-sensitive microphone picking up whispers in a noisy room, detecting faint signals in the noise of reality.
But okay, here's the kicker. How on earth do we test if these AI tools are accurate? The speaker raised this really tricky point about decisions.
Oh yeah, this is fundamental. It gets into the nature of prediction itself. Think about it. You come to a crossroads, a decision point. Reality branches.
Option A, option B.
Right. You choose A. In that moment, option B, as it would have unfolded from that exact point, kind of dissolves. It's no longer observable.
So if the AI says go with B, it's better, and you do, you can never prove it was right because you can't see what A would have brought.
Exactly. The potential future of A remains forever unknown in that specific timeline.
Which means our usual scientific method, like A/B testing where you run both side by side, just doesn't work here.
Nope. You can't rewind and replay history with the other choice.
So standard testing is out. It relies on repeatable experiments, observing outcomes. Futures aren't repeatable like that.
It's a different kind of problem. It needs a different kind of validation, if that's even the right word.
So if A/B testing is off the table, how could we judge these AI predictions? What sort of long-term view could work?
The material suggests maybe shifting focus. Forget predicting the exact time something happens, like Tuesday, 3:17 p.m.
Okay.
Maybe look instead at the overall sequence of events. Did the types of things the AI hinted at eventually show up? Maybe in a different order or a broader time frame, more about the pattern, less about the pinpoint timing?
That feels more achievable, the general weather forecast, not whether it rains at exactly 2.05.
Something like that. But even then, defining when a prediction has actually materialized, that gets fuzzy fast.
Yeah, I can see that. How do you define success or a positive outcome? It's subjective.
And language becomes crucial here. How precisely was the prediction phrased? The vaguer it is, the easier it is to say, oh yeah, that kind of happened.
But the more precise, the harder it is to hit.
Right. And even with precise language, there's still interpretation.
Which loops us right back to the conscious mind interfering. Even with an AI prediction, my interpretation of whether it came true is filtered through my biases.
Absolutely. It's the same challenge as looking at your own tarot spread and trying to be objective about whether that unexpected journey card actually played out.
So hard.
And that just reinforces why someone like Heidi reading for others can be more effective. Her conscious mind, her personal stake, is removed. She's interpreting the tool, not her own life through the tool.
Then the speaker throws in this really deep, almost philosophical point. Maybe we're not supposed to have perfect prediction for ourselves, something about risk.
Yeah, it touches on the idea that uncertainty, risk, the possibility of things going unexpectedly, that might be essential for growth, for novelty.
Like if everything was predictable, things would just stagnate. No surprises, no real learning.
Kind of. Maybe a certain amount of chaos or unpredictability is needed for the richness of life, for new things to emerge. Keeps the system dynamic.
Okay, so if or when these AI ontology tools appear, the advice is be skeptical. Why the strong warning?
Well, think about who's building them. Developers have biases. Early users have biases.
Right.
Those biases can unintentionally creep into the AI's design, how it learns, how its results are presented, and definitely how people interpret those results. We could easily build systems that just confirm what we already want to believe.
We need to be super careful about fooling ourselves, even with fancy tech.
Exactly. High-tech confirmation bias is still confirmation bias.
Now, what about the AI feeling things? The speaker seemed pretty doubtful about AI sensing qualia anytime soon.
Yeah, very doubtful. I mean, AI is amazing at processing data, even mimicking conversation or art. But that internal subjective feeling of redness or pain or joy,
Qualia?
that's a whole different beast. We barely understand how consciousness and qualia arise in our own brains, let alone how to build it into silicon.
It's like trying to explain sight to someone born blind. The concepts just don't translate easily.
That's a good analogy. There's a fundamental gap in understanding, let alone replication.
But the material does mention devices using quantum entanglement to sense subtle stuff. Disturbances in the force, almost.
Yeah, sort of. The idea is entanglement's weird instantaneous connection might let a sensor pick up tiny energy shifts or fluctuations at a really fundamental quantum level.
Ripples in the event stream before they become big waves.
Potentially. We're talking maybe sensing things milliseconds, maybe seconds, maybe minutes ahead. Very short term. based on these almost pre-event tremors in reality's fabric.
Fascinating, like an early warning system for something. And the speaker compares these potential devices to tarot cards. Why?
Because even if an AI could detect these quantum ripples, what does that raw data mean for your life, your decisions?
Right, it might just be noise or numbers on a screen.
Exactly. Like tarot symbols, that raw quantum data might need interpretation. It might still need a detached human mind to say, okay, this pattern of ripples might suggest caution in this area or whatever.
So the human element remains crucial for meaning making.
That seems to be the argument.
And despite all this potential AI power, the speaker still seems to lean towards human minds being ultimately better decision makers in complex situations. Why?
I think it boils down to intuition, gut feelings, that holistic grasp of a situation that humans have. We integrate logic, emotion, experience, subtle cues. Maybe, in a way, AI, even quantum AI, can't fully replicate.
There's more to wisdom than just processing power.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Something about lived experience and navigating genuine ambiguity.
I like how this whole topic is framed not as we're about to solve the future, but more like we're just uncovering another layer of complexity, more questions maybe.
That's usually how real scientific progress works, isn't it? You answer one question and uncover 10 more. These ontology tools, human or AI, seem to be part of that ongoing exploration of reality's deep mysteries.
And it's directly linked to the work on entangled computers, qubit chips. The source even hints some basic versions might exist in labs already, but clarifies this isn't remote viewing tech.
No, probably not. More likely, using these quantum computers to chew through massive data sets, looking for faint statistical correlations. Patterns in energy levels, maybe, that might weakly predict something, even if we don't fully grasp why yet.
So the million-dollar question, will AI tools ever truly beat the human mind at this? The speaker floats the idea of the brain itself being a kind of quantum antenna.
Yeah, subtle energy receiver. That's pretty out there, but it opens up interesting thoughts. What if consciousness is fundamentally quantum? What if our brains can perceive or process information in ways our current physics doesn't fully capture?
Like telepathy or...
Or that anecdote the speaker shared about the shared thought with Heidi about the closet.
Right, that simultaneous, unexpected shared thought. Was it telepathy? Minds entrained? Or just the ontology, the reality framework connecting them in that moment?
Who knows? But those kinds of experiences, even if anecdotal, do make you wonder about the mind's hidden potentials. They support the idea that the human mind is still a profoundly powerful and mysterious tool.
And ultimately, despite the AI hype, the belief seems to land back on human superiority in this specific domain.
It seems that way. Maybe it's the adaptability, the intuition, the sheer weirdness of consciousness that AI might struggle to match. That wisdom from just being conscious.
Okay, then there was that brief mention, kind of fringe stuff, about rumors of people in secret space programs being used as ontology tools.
Yeah.
Skepticism was high, but...
Yeah, highly skeptical. There's zero credible evidence. The logistics seem impossible. But the fact the rumor exists is kind of interesting.
What does it say?
Maybe it speaks to our fascination with human potential. And perhaps a darker desire to harness or exploit consciousness if we could. It taps into those deeper themes.
Circling back to the tech, entangled qubits and AI, the uncertainty within the quantum chip itself, could that lead to a different kind of AI?
That's a really cool idea. Classical AI is deterministic, mostly.
Yeah.
But quantum mechanics is probabilistic, so a quantum AI might operate with inherent uncertainty, maybe making it better at modeling our messy, unpredictable reality.
Right.
Perhaps it could even mimic intuition in some way.
And then the idea of AI not replacing, but augmenting us, creating devices that amplify our own subtle sensitivities.
Right. Not transhumanism like chips in the brain, necessarily, but maybe devices that detect and, boost the faint signals our minds might already be picking up.
Enhancing tarot reading skills or general intuition?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Like tuning a radio to pick up a faint station more clearly,
Right.
amplifying our existing ontological receivers.
So wrapping up, the big takeaway seems to be expect significant movement on ontology tools using entangled chips in the next, say, 4 or 5 years.
That seems to be the prediction.
Yeah.
It's definitely a space to watch. We could be on the verge of some really fundamental shifts in how we perceive and interact with reality itself.
Okay, so let's recap this deep dive. We looked at our minds as the main ontology tools we have now, right?
Right, but with the big challenge of our own biases getting in the way, especially for self-insight.
Then the potential game changer, entangled qubit AI, offering new ways to maybe perceive the event stream.
But with huge question marks around how to even test if those predictions are right. given the nature of choices and timelines.
And through it all, the enduring importance, maybe even supremacy of human intuition, interpretation, that qualia-driven understanding.
Absolutely. The human element seems key, which leaves you, the listener, with something to mull over.
Yeah, as this tech develops, maybe giving us glimpses into potential futures, how does that change our sense of free will, our understanding of risk and uncertainty in life?
And what does it mean for our own intuition if an AI can seemingly offer predictive insights? Does it enhance us? Undermine us? It's a lot to think about.